Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and today we have a very special guest on the show. We're going to be talking about something that I feel is extremely important. It is something that we as a society are slowly shying away from, but I think it's important for us to embrace, and that is struggle. It's important to embrace the struggle doing the hard things. So today with us we have a fantastic guest who's going to talk about this, Joel Green. Joel, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Ashton, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Joel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a Philadelphia native, and I've been there the majority of my life. I'm over in New Jersey now, but was able to just come up and during some pretty rough times. In the middle of the crack era, the late '80s, early '90s, which was a difficult time. The environment I grew up in was challenging. I'll say that, mentally challenging, physically challenging at times. Pretty violent atmosphere I grew up in. I grew up in an abandoned house. The house next door to us was also abandoned. That was burnt down, but a homeless guy lived there my entire time that we lived there during my childhood. And I witnessed, violence. I was 10 feet away from a shooting at age of 6 and had escaped that, afraid of being shot because I was the only person there outside the kid that was shot. So just, witnessing different things, it helped me develop a callous to difficulties and challenges early in life. And just I learned how to even distract myself, to be honest, to take my mind off of different negativity early in life and just begin developing different habits of just distraction, which ended up leading me towards success. Just trying to escape different moments, and basketball became that escape, to be honest, that distraction. And it took me pretty far. It's still taking me places, although I retired from being a professional basketball player. Um, it's still taking me far in business. I'm now CEO of a company. I'm a national director for Nike sports camps, and
Wow.
more importantly, I'm a father. So that's my life in a nutshell, man.
That's the biggest win right there, right?
Yeah,
In, in fact, Joel, the question came to me like when you were talking about the environment that you grew up in, right? How do you actually pull yourself out of something like that? Because it either makes you or breaks you, right? It's one of these two things. You never
yeah,
just come
right.
out unscathed from something like this.
I dare say I didn't pull myself out. It was a collective effort, and
Okay.
it came by way of my parents instilling faith in me and saying, "Look, we're going to get out of this. We're going to." I would hear things like that often, like, "Hey, we're going to be able to do X, Y, Z. We're going to be. Hey, can we go to Disney World? No, not right now, but we're going to one day." I would ask to go to Disney World, man, every day. I used to, get these VHS tapes, and watch on the VCR about Disney World, and I would watch them for years, and I was never able to go until I think I was 20 years old. But I was asking since I was about 6, and I just understood we didn't have the
Wow.
money to do it. But my parents always let us know one day we'll be able to do this, we'll be able to do that. We used to wear donated clothes from the church, and hey, it's all right. It was we had faith. You know what I mean? I was the youngest of 4 in a household of 6, and again, it was a collective effort, just making me aware of a vision ahead of me. Like, and hey, stay focused, continue to work toward that. Continue to do well in the classroom, do well on the court in your activities, and it's going to take you somewhere.
Joel, what you said is so critical, right? It's this word called hope, which is what I think your parents were putting in.
Yep.
They were saying that there is hope. There is hope. Don't give up. I think
Exactly.
most of us lose that sense of hope when we're passing through a phase like this,
Right.
and the struggle that exists.
Mhm.
Um, when you work with people, when you talk about this, how do you get people to identify that hope? Because it's very difficult to find it.
Right. I mean, the first thing they have to be aware of, honestly, is having awareness to know that today doesn't have to be tomorrow. You're not going to be
Mm.
where you are right now forever. And you just can't be so caught up and lost in the emotions of where you are. That's really what clouds our moments. It's the emotions of where we are. All of a sudden, we're not able to fully judge and perceive that moment properly because it was so emotional in that moment, to where I know it's not always the easiest thing to do to remove emotions from our moments, but it has to happen in order for us to clearly see what's taking place, what's transpiring. And that's where I tell people all the time, look, just take a moment, breathe, breathe, and just really ask yourself, why is what's taking place, but without emotion. Don't say, why is this happening to me? Sit back for a moment and say, okay, I wonder why this is actually taking place. It's the same question, but it's asking a different way. And when you are able to remove some emotion from your questions about life, you're able to actually get some clearer answers. And that's what I had to begin to do for myself, was to remove the emotions and say, okay, how can I break this down? How can I filter these moments to actually draw something out? And even beyond that, I had to ask myself, what can I draw out to actually propel me to the other side? What can I use from the darkness, from the dark moments, to actually turn into motivation to propel me beyond this moment that I'm going through?
Wow. Joel, there's so much to unpack in what you just said. The first thing is, if you just say, why is this happening with emotion, it becomes why me? And when you
Right.
remove the emotion, it becomes an objective look at what's happening in your life. I think so. So getting that objectivity is critical, and then using what you've just learned as rocket propellant almost to take you
Mm-hmm.
to that next level.
Yep.
How did you identify that aspect, that took you to that next level, that learning that you got from it?
I learned that from sports, to be honest.
Okay.
To where if I was challenged in the world of sports on the basketball court or running track, then I took that challenge head on. And said, okay, I see that you got the best of me here. Now it's my turn to learn how to level up. It's my turn to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, let's do some self assessment. Here's where I lacked, but here's where I'm going to grow at the same time. And so when it came down to just other sides of life, and I used the same thing to where I may have experienced a dark moment, a disappointment, to where it's like, okay, that got me here. But here's also an area where I can grow. So let me actually use this dark moment against itself to win against that potentially the next time it tries to rear its ugly head. And so, I had a moment to where as a teenager, I tragically lost one of my older brothers. And that was the toughest thing, still one of the toughest things I've ever had to experience. And I said, okay, how can I use this? I had to lean into it. I couldn't run away from it. The moment I leaned into it, I got motivation from it. I started making promises to my brother, like, okay, I'm going to do the things you've been trying to teach me to do this whole time. You've been telling me, hey, get better grades. You've been telling me, go harder on the court so that you can get that scholarship to college. And I began doing that. I began making those promises to him, and finding motivation even through his death, which was a difficult thing to do, but it drove me to say, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm able to live. I'm going to live this thing to the fullest at this point, because tonight isn't promised. So now I'm going to live it up, because I see life can be taken. So I was able to find some motivation even by way of death, the darkest of moments. And I just began applying that mentality and that filtering process, to everything. I say, how can I break this thing down to actually take something from it and drive me forward? And it's an amazing thing, amazing tool I've been using, and thank God it's been working.
Fantastic. Yeah, using that as motivation. You also mentioned that you had distractions that helped you through these times.
Yeah.
What kind of distractions?
You just creative outlets, drawing, art, artwork. I used to want to be an architect when I was growing up as a child, and I used to just make model homes and all the time. So again, being in the not the most ideal house, our parents, they used to drive us across the bridge, to New Jersey, right? And it would take us to these big, beautiful homes, these model homes, these brand new houses that were being made and being built. And we would, after church, we would go get, a treat, and we would drive across the bridge and just drive around this area. And sometimes we would go out and go inside and tour and take a tour of these new houses. And me and my sister asked my parents some years ago, like, why did they used to do that? They said we were planting seeds. We wanted you guys to know honestly what the other side looked like. We wanted you to know what existed beyond where we lived every single day. And it planted the seed so perfectly, man. it was amazing. It was a great distraction, even that from where we were, how impoverished we were, and just beyond that, I had other distractions. Again, artwork, basketball was just the most amazing distraction because it took me out of my neighborhood, which is what I needed. It took me out of
Yeah.
that physical environment and it put me around other people, other cultures, which was like the best thing ever because I didn't know how to relate to others that didn't look like me, that didn't sound like me, that didn't live where I live. But it gave me great exposure and it was the ultimate distraction.
Joel, you have some rock star parents, okay? They gave you hope. They planted these seeds.
Mhm.
Fantastic, right? Like I think
Yeah.
there's so much that the listeners can take away just from parenting advice from
Yeah.
this episode. Just like picking up those elements. But Joel, embracing the struggle, right? When I
Mhm.
say that, what are the thoughts that come to your mind?
Embracing the struggle just means it's acceptance. That's one thing that I feel we struggle with so often is the acceptance of reality, of what
Oh, that's
just
a
has
big
taken
one.
place.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
big one.
And man, it's the realities that we refuse to accept are the struggle, the tougher ones. We accept the happy reality. We accept winning. We accept getting paid. We accept all, we accept those moments happily, but we fight against the moments that aren't ideal. And it's like we have to accept those just as much and just as well. And when we do, we fight less against life. I think that we were put here not to make the bad stuff good. I really believe that the bad stuff was put here to make us better, right? Like I feel like the bad stuff was put here to refine us, but we don't accept the bad stuff. We always try to remove it or make it good. It's like, no, let's accept that and allow that stuff to work for us in our favor to actually make us amazing. And I think when we go about it with that perspective, we then even view those bad things, those difficult moments, as not so bad. It's not about being optimistic. It's just really about viewing those things beneath their surfaces to realize there's something that lies beneath that can actually work for us.
This is so powerful. Just accepting that this exists is going to give you that little boost that you need in order to get over it. Joel, I'm going to
Exactly.
flip it on its head. Okay. There are lots of people who go through zero struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have all the money, they have all
Yep.
of these things that are there, and they're still unhappy with it. What
Mm-hmm.
should those people do? Should they be looking out for struggles? What should they be doing? How do they become stronger? How do they evolve?
Hello, 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 everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM podcast. Before we get into the rest of the promo, I just want to make a quick announcement. Our channel IVM Likes is now IVM Pop. We are going to be releasing a number of shows in this channel. Stay tuned for more. On Smarter with Sid, Sid explores the lifestyle of a digital nomad and whether it's feasible for a common man in today's age. On The Wire Talk, Siddharth Bhatia is joined by filmmaker Nikhil Advani. They talk about the changes in the audience's tastes, 3 must-do steps for Hindi filmmakers, and how despite efforts, the industry remains unorganized. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to communications consultant Karthik Srinivasan. They discuss the communication space and D2C scenario in India. Keep in mind, Karthik is one of our newest hosts. He has his own show, The Advertiser's Guide to the Galaxy. This week, he dissects Usha Grinder's Better Batter ad and analyzes what it tells us about gender stereotypes. And on a niche thing, Anish has an amazing conversation with co-founder of the Lovers Rum, Arijit Bose. They discuss its history, provenance, and types of rums one must try. Once again, everybody, I'd like to remind you all to go check out our merch store on ivmpodcast.com. We have new stuff coming out all the time. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on all platforms. And do remember, spread the word about the shows you're listening to. We would also appreciate it if you could rate or review this show or any of the other shows that you're listening to, wherever you're listening to. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Volvo XC40 Recharge, Bumble, Heads Up for Tails, and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you so much for making this possible.
I think what can help them is just understanding of the other side, getting so they can have some empathy, right? And I think with the empathy will come even further understanding, and that will allow them to at least see what struggle looks like, you know, feels like. Again, with empathy, that's a feeling. I think what they need to know is the feeling of the other side. Now, not to say that they have to go ahead and lose all their money on purpose or lose their opportunities on purpose. No, you don't want to do that. But to lack of understanding of the other side is ignorance. And you don't want to have that, because even that ignorance can lead to failure at some point because you just weren't aware of certain things. And, for them, again, I wouldn't say put themselves, honestly, yes, they should seek those moments of discomfort, seek those moments of, imperfection, of failure. I'm big on seeking failure. I'll be honest with you. That's something I do on purpose. I have
What does
no
that mean? How
problem.
do you do that?
For me, I go all in with my desire, right? So I make sure I do it tactfully with strategy, but I don't mind mishaps. I don't mind hiccups. I don't mind failure points. That's just a part of the process for me. So I've come to realize failure is just literally, it's a midpoint. It's not an endpoint for me. So if it happens, it's just a detour. Okay, let me figure out another way, make an adjustment. It's not a dead end though. I'm going to keep moving. And so I literally seek moments of failure. That always shows me I must be giving my best with this thing. And I tell that to athletes that I work with. If I'm taking you through a drill or an exercise and I'm expecting you to go full speed and you're perfectly executing this thing from the start, you're probably not going your absolute highest rate of intensity and speed, because when you do that, mistakes happen. But also, when you do that, you're taking yourself to your highest ability level, and mistakes has to happen when you're taking yourself to your highest ability level. When we stay in safe mode, you can stay in safe mode and not make any mistakes at all, but you're not actually growing. So, if somebody already has it all and they already, doing well, they're doing well, but they may not be going the absolute hardest, even with different things. If they're not making mistakes, and I dare say that they're not doing their absolute best. They're talented, of course, but they may not be reaching their highest level.
They've left stuff on the table that you
Yeah,
have to get through that struggle.
you have
Right?
to.
Fantastic. Um, Joel, a question on when you came out of that lifestyle, right? When you were
Mm-hmm.
breaking out of that struggle, and now you have found success, you have a fantastic house, you have a fantastic family, all those things. Does imposter syndrome ever sneak in?
It tries to, but I'm big on not being complacent. So I don't mind discomfort. Again, I seek failure. So I put myself in a situation of, okay, you know what? I can delegate this objective to somebody else, but nope, I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
I'm going to still do it, because although it may be grueling, and I'll be honest, I don't like doing this or that part, updating a certain part of a website. I make sure I do it to keep myself humble. I'm being honest with you. It keeps me in a place of humility and of grind and grit. It keeps that grit in me, which is what got me where I am. And so I don't want to completely remove certain objectives that I may not enjoy doing. Some things I will pass off to my intern. Some things I actually have kept for myself on purpose, just to make sure I'm checking myself on a regular basis. Like, nope, you keep doing this, because this keeps you in that creative space of not having it all. Even if you have a lot, I enjoy feeling like I don't have much. I enjoy being in a place of desperation many times, because I work that much harder. So, I put myself there on purpose.
Fantastic. Joel, you've written an amazing book. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, sure, sure. It's called Filtering: The Way to Extract Strength from the Struggle. And again, that's what I do with life. I filter it. I break it all down, and it's a tool and a method that I developed about 8 years ago, and just I practiced it. I spoke it from the stage, and I saw how it affected people from the stage. And I said, okay, I have to put it in print. And it's just really about, again, leaning into your circumstances to find out why those things are here. Because so often when difficulty happens, we're so quick just to remove them from our lives because they're painful, they hurt, we don't want them around. But we negate finding out why those things came. And what tends to happen is those things come right back around again, maybe with a different face on them, because we didn't learn the lessons initially. So by way of filtering, you're able to break your situation down while it's happening, and you don't have to just go through things and wait on hindsight years later to reveal the answers. You can actually develop foresight in the moment and say, okay, I got it. This is why it happened. And now I can see it coming down the pipe the next time it may try to arise. And again, the book has been helping people in an amazing way. Again, we released it 2 weeks ago. And I'm just excited that it's making the impact that I desired for it to make. And so many people are just like, wow, this is already, mind changing and life changing. And it feels good to hear.
Who's this book for? What kind of person? What would they be going through in life would immediately connect with something like this?
For those that are just looking to overcome, I'll be honest with you. That could, obviously I would love to niche it down and narrow it down even more. But honestly, I wrote this book to overcome myself with so much that I was going through, experiencing, job loss and, loss of loved ones and going through divorce and going through a whole lot of life, being a single father, going through all these things. I was seeking answers. I had to figure out a way to not just get through my stuff. I wanted to like literally grow while I was amidst those things and get to the other side and be amazing on the other side of it. And, I've been able to figure that out. So I said, this is really for those who are looking to not only overcome, but to see life from a different vantage point or two or three, to carry a different perspective and not just be in their default emotional state all the time and just say, okay, wow, I didn't see life from this angle. You can honestly become your own therapist in many aspects. And that's what I think will help us to get through different things, is by just seeing things, as you mentioned earlier, objectively, and not just our own narrow point of view.
Fantastic. Joel, last question. What are your 5 top habits that you do every day?
5 top habits. Well, number one, this is probably a typical one that you may hear, but I wake up early. That's a habit of mine that, man, I've been practicing since sports. So I
What
wake
is
up
early?
early. 5 o'clock now is early, but it used to be 4:30. It's
Wow.
sometimes it's still 4:45. I like that. For me, it's a small achievement to wake up at 4 or 5. I feel good about myself. But
Beat the alarm clock.
you're right. Exactly. It's a nice little achievement. And so that's right around 5 o'clock on average. So maybe before a lot of times, but do that. I wake up for the first 20 minutes. I pray and just give
Mhm.
myself some time of just like gratefulness. To be honest, I do that. That's another way to keep myself in a place of humility and just in gratefulness. I'm big on gratitude. That's just who I
Fantastic.
am. So I pray for about 20 minutes. I eat, and that's a great habit of mine because I'm physically active. I'm an active person throughout the day. So wake up, I pray, I eat a small breakfast, and then I work out right after that. And then, so that's 4 things right there. The thing I do after that is I wake my son up. By this time it's around 7 o'clock. I wake him up. We work out, and
Oh,
and
wow.
we go over quotes. And
Nice.
so, it's that's those things, and then we eat a breakfast together. Like that's my second breakfast of the day, but now I eat a little bit larger breakfast because I'm hungrier for my workout and stuff like that. So it's I have a nice routine that it helps me out to where I know I'm about to be active, so I feed myself. You know what I mean, and it feels good every morning to give and impart something into my son. It's nothing like it. It's just so fulfilling for me. It just makes me feel great before 8 a.m. It's like I love
Fantastic.
it.
That's amazing. That's a fantastic morning routine right there. Joel, I think we're just good on time. Thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast and talking to us. How can people get in touch with you, connect with you, continue this conversation with you?
Ashton, I appreciate it again, man. You can see me. I'm on Instagram often nowadays. I love engagement. That's the thing with me. People know I will direct message people that contacts me and have a full conversation that way. If they have any questions for me, if I can help in any regard, you can reach me on there at J Green PLT, JAY Green PLT. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, the typical platforms, and my website, joelbgreen.com. But I love engagement. That's the thing with me. I feel like my purpose is just to help others level up, and it feels great for me when I'm able to do that.
How beautiful is that? Joel, thank you again for coming on. We put all the links in the show notes below so people
Awesome.
can reach out to you.
Awesome.
Fantastic.